I don't regret speaking out about incest, and we opened up a national dialogue. Yes, it was very difficult for me as a person and as a family member.
Mackenzie Phillips, a child star, a music icon, a woman whose life has captivated and shocked the world. From the bright lights of fame to the shadows of scandal and personal struggle, her story has always been more complicated than the tabloids revealed. At 65, Mackenzie finally opens up about the heartbreak, the trauma, and the moments that shaped her life. A life that has been as extraordinary as it has been devastating. This is the untold story of love, betrayal, addiction, and resilience, and the tragedy that continues to echo decades after the world first fell in love with her talent. Mackenzie Phillips's story begins not simply in the spotlight, but in the complex and often turbulent world of celebrity family life, where the boundaries between love, talent, and trauma were blurred from the very start. Born to John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas and singer Genevieve Waite, Mackenzie grew up surrounded by music, fame, and the intoxicating allure of Hollywood life. From an early age, she exhibited a natural talent and charisma that would later captivate audiences worldwide. Yet this gift came hand in hand with immense pressure and expectations that few children could withstand. Friends and family recall a young Mackenzie who was both gifted and fragile, navigating the duality of being a star in the making while also trying to exist as a normal child in a world that offered little privacy. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, she was thrust into the public eye, balancing a budding music career with acting roles that highlighted her charm and talent, most famously starring in The Kids Are All Right, a show that not only cemented her reputation as a capable actress but also intertwined her life with the story of her real family's fame and turmoil. Yet behind the cameras, the realities of growing up in a household where fame, substance abuse, and complicated relationships were ever present began to take their toll. While Mackenzie's talents were undeniable, the environment in which she was raised exposed her to dynamics that would later influence her struggles with addiction, identity, and trust. Colleagues and contemporaries have noted that even at the height of her early fame, there were glimpses of internal conflict. Moments when the public face of a bright, confident performer clashed with private insecurities and the emotional complexities of being a child star in a fractured household. As she matured into a young adult, the pressures of fame collided with personal vulnerabilities, leading to relationships and decisions that would later define much of the tragedy associated with her life. The line between family, fame, and personal autonomy was often blurred, leaving Mackenzie navigating not only her own career aspirations, but also the complicated legacies of her parents, whose successes and personal failings loomed large. It was in this environment that Mackenzie began to face the challenges that would shape her story: exposure to substance abuse, the manipulation of power dynamics, and the emotional scars of growing up in a family where love, attention, and control were constantly in flux. Her rise to stardom, therefore, was never simply a narrative of success. It was intertwined with trauma, survival, and the necessity of reconciling public acclaim with private turmoil. Interviews, memoirs, and later confessions reveal that Mackenzie's early life was marked by contradictions. She was celebrated for her talent, adored by fans, yet simultaneously grappling with pressures and experiences that left lasting emotional wounds. This duality would follow her into adulthood, influencing her relationships, career choices, and battles with addiction. It was a foundation of brilliance shadowed by heartbreak, where each success on stage or screen carried with it echoes of the struggles she could not escape, and where the world's adoration masked the personal pain that she would only confront and reveal decades later, making her story one of both extraordinary talent and heartbreaking tragedy. A story that resonates with audiences who see in her life the fragility and resilience of the human spirit. As Mackenzie Phillips transitioned from child star to adult performer, the pressures and complexities of her early life evolved into battles that would define much of her personal and public identity, particularly her struggles with addiction, betrayal, and emotional trauma. By the late 1970s, Mackenzie had achieved fame not only through her work on The Kids Are All Right, but also as a singer with her father's band, the Mamas and the Papas, creating opportunities that many could only dream of. Yet these experiences brought with them exposure to the darker side of the entertainment world. Industry insiders and friends recall how the relentless pace of shows, tours, and recording sessions intersected with an environment rife with substance use, experimentation, and blurred boundaries, particularly for young performers still navigating their own identities. Mackenzie's personal battles were compounded by the emotional wounds of her family life, complicated parental relationships, unresolved trauma, and early exposure to situations that would challenge her understanding of love, trust, and self-worth. In interviews and her later memoirs, Mackenzie described the intersection of fame and personal vulnerability, revealing how addiction became both a coping mechanism and a source of further conflict, isolating her from friends, family, and colleagues. Relationships, both romantic and professional, were complicated by these struggles, often marked by betrayal, disappointment, and moments of profound pain. Friends recall instances when she appeared confident and radiant in public, while privately battling demons that few could comprehend. The duality of her life, adored on stage and yet struggling behind the scenes, illustrates the tragic complexity of growing up in the spotlight, while also carrying the weight of generational trauma. Additionally, Mackenzie's experiences shed light on the darker side of celebrity culture in the 1970s, an era when boundaries were often ignored and support systems were minimal, leaving young stars vulnerable to exploitation and destructive patterns. Despite these challenges, Mackenzie demonstrated resilience, often seeking help, reflecting on her choices, and striving to reclaim control over her life and career, even when the path forward seemed impossibly steep. Yet the public perception of her life rarely captured the full scope of her struggles, often reducing her story to headlines about addiction or scandal, while obscuring the deeply personal pain, the moments of manipulation, and the lifelong effects of growing up in a turbulent environment. Her battles with addiction and betrayal were not isolated events. They were interconnected with her experiences as a child star, her familial relationships, and the pressures of an industry that demanded perfection while offering minimal emotional support. Today, Mackenzie's reflections at 65 reveal the human cost of fame, the courage required to confront one's demons, and the ongoing journey toward healing and understanding. Her narrative is both heartbreaking and instructive, demonstrating how early life experiences compounded by the pressures of celebrity can create lasting challenges that affect every aspect of a person's life, from relationships and career choices to self-perception and emotional health. In sharing these struggles openly, Mackenzie Phillips provides a rare and powerful insight into the realities behind the glamour, revealing that her life, marked by both extraordinary achievement and profound tragedy, reflects a universal story of resilience, survival, and the enduring quest for self-reclamation despite the shadows that fame and personal trauma can cast over a life. Mackenzie Phillips's life took a dramatic and highly publicized turn when revelations emerged that exposed the depths of her personal struggles, shocking not only fans but also the entertainment world at large. And she has now, at 65, spoken candidly about the experiences that had long been sensationalized and misunderstood. The scandal, which erupted in the 1980s, revolved around deeply personal and painful family dynamics, substance abuse, and complicated relationships that had remained private for years, suddenly thrust into headlines and talk shows. Mackenzie recalls the fear, shame, and emotional turmoil of having the most intimate aspects of her life scrutinized, judged, and often misrepresented by the media. Colleagues and friends remember the period as one of intense pressure and vulnerability, where Mackenzie had to navigate not only public condemnation but also personal betrayal, self-doubt, and the ongoing struggle with addiction. In interviews, she reflects on how the media's portrayal of her life often reduced her experiences to sensational soundbites, ignoring the layers of trauma, resilience, and human complexity that had shaped her. The scrutiny amplified the challenges she faced behind closed doors, forcing her to confront painful memories while simultaneously defending her identity and dignity in the public eye. Mackenzie emphasizes that the scandal was not merely about public perception. It was about survival, understanding, and ultimately reclaiming her voice. She shares how the experience forced her to develop boundaries, recognize patterns of manipulation and dysfunction, and seek professional and personal support to navigate the chaos. The public, while fascinated by the drama, rarely understood the courage required to confront these truths head-on, or the vulnerability involved in sharing her story authentically. The revelation also sparked broader conversations about family, fame, and the often unseen consequences of child stardom, illustrating how early trauma and public exposure can intertwine to create lifelong challenges. Mackenzie's candidness, at 65, sheds light on the human side of scandal, the emotional toll, the struggle to maintain relationships, and the long journey toward healing and self-understanding. Friends describe her resilience as remarkable, noting that despite the intense public scrutiny and personal heartbreak, she has worked tirelessly to reclaim her narrative and advocate for others facing similar challenges. It was a period marked by heartbreak, confusion, and reflection, yet also by the seeds of growth and self-awareness that would later define her journey towards stability, reconciliation, and personal empowerment. By speaking openly about the scandal decades later, Mackenzie Phillips provides a profound perspective on the intersection of fame, family, and personal struggle, offering insight into the courage it takes to confront one's past, reclaim agency over one's life, and transform tragedy into a narrative of survival, understanding, and eventual healing. Today, at 65, Mackenzie Phillips stands as a testament to resilience, survival, and the pursuit of personal healing, having transformed decades of struggle, addiction, and heartbreak into a story of empowerment and redemption. After years of public scrutiny, personal battles, and difficult revelations, she has embraced the challenge of confronting her past openly, using her experiences to educate, inspire, and connect with others who have faced trauma, addiction, and complex family dynamics. Mackenzie reflects on the journey as one that required immense courage, professional guidance, and unwavering self-reflection, acknowledging that healing is neither linear nor easy, but remains possible even after the most devastating circumstances. She has taken steps to repair fractured relationships, seek therapy, and advocate for mental health awareness, understanding that the narrative of a troubled past does not have to define one's future. Friends and family describe her current life as a balance of self-care, meaningful personal connections, and continued creativity, emphasizing that she now approaches work and personal endeavors with mindfulness, compassion, and a grounded sense of purpose. Mackenzie's story also underscores the importance of reclaiming one's narrative. By sharing her truth on her own terms, she has shifted public perception from sensationalized scandal to authentic human experience, highlighting the complexities of fame, family, and personal growth. She speaks candidly about lessons learned, the value of self-respect, and the courage required to face both internal and external challenges, reminding audiences that vulnerability and strength can coexist. Today, she remains a voice for those navigating similar struggles, demonstrating that redemption is possible when one confronts the truth, embraces support, and commits to ongoing self-discovery. Her journey is not just about overcoming addiction or scandal. It is about reclaiming identity, finding peace amidst chaos, and cultivating resilience in the face of adversity. Mackenzie's reflections reveal a woman who has endured unimaginable pain, yet emerged with clarity, wisdom, and a renewed sense of purpose, showing that even in the shadow of heartbreak, life can be rebuilt with courage and authenticity. She continues to inspire fans and fellow survivors alike, illustrating that the human spirit can endure, heal, and flourish even after a life marked by tragedy and public scrutiny. By embracing her story fully and sharing it with the world, Mackenzie Phillips has transformed her narrative into one of empowerment, hope, and the enduring possibility of redemption, proving that even the most heartbreaking journeys can lead to profound personal growth and meaningful impact on the lives of others.